always wanted a dog, but I haven't had one since Lassie when I was 5. Even though when I graduated from college, my sister gave me the promise of a gift of a golden retriever puppy whenever I was ready. But the time has never seemed to be right. Our daughter had a cat, and Frisky stayed with my wife Nancy and me when Nina graduated from high school and flew the nest in 2001. At 6 in the morning, the day after Memorial Day 2001, I was busy getting ready for work, late as usual, when the phone rang. It was Nancy, asking me to please get the cat carrier and drive to where she was about 8 miles from our then home near Buffalo, because a cute little kitten had chased her all the way uphill as she was riding her bicycle on a country road. And now he was clinging to her. Please, come quickly. I couldn't believe it. First of all, cats do not chase bicycles. And I've got to go on a stray cat rescue mission at 6 in the morning on a work day? Give me a break. But I dutifully complied, and when I got to Crump Road, there he was, standing right in the middle. So I opened the cat carrier, and in he walked. Nancy named him Buster, and she dropped him off at the vet's for a checkup on her way to work. When I got to the vet's to pick him up that night, they didn't want to let him go because they had already fallen in love with him. He was such a flirt. He had spent much of his day batting the IV tubes of his fellow feline patients. We made a safe, warm, and comfortable home for Buster in a large bay in our barn-type garage where we tucked him in every evening. And every morning when I opened the garage door, he burst out as if shot from a cannon. He would follow me to the dock whenever I went swimming in the pond, and he'd sit by the ladder and serve as my personal lifeguard. He also loved to go on walks with us, including a 6-hour hike through nearby woods where he stayed with us step by step. I swear he must have thought he was a dog. He finally did get distracted and ran off for a bit, and I was getting pretty worried looking for him, and all of a sudden my baseball cap got knocked off, and I happened to look up, and there was Buster sitting in the limb of a tree, grinning down at me. Christmas season of 2001 brought the lake effect snows that the Buffalo region is notorious for, and then some. We got 7 feet in one 24-hour period, plus drifts. When I started the snowblower, Buster got spooked and ran off, and he was nowhere to be found when it was time to tuck him in, and that was totally unlike him. Nancy and I were really worried, and we couldn't find him all evening, all night, all the next day, all the next night. The next morning, I finally heard a really faint meow, and I was running around desperately trying to find him. Even climbed on the garage roof. No luck. Then I heard the meow again. It was fainter still, but fortunately I was close enough to be able to pinpoint where he was. He somehow got stuck behind a wall inside the bay. He must have hid there in the past, and he had grown too big to back out. And the way forward now was blocked with dirt and stones. So I dug away furiously with numb fingers until finally there was enough of a clearing that he was able to just kind of walk out, which he did as if nothing had ever happened. And at that point, I knew that although he loved being outside, he loved chasing dragonflies or ambushing Nancy and me when we were cross-country skiing in the field, that for his safety, for our peace of mind, we really needed to bring him inside. So I gathered him in my arms, and he became our indoor cat. We established some really cherished routines. My favorite happened one day, I guess it started when I crouched behind a wall in our basement and then peeked around the edge of it and caught his attention, and I hid back behind the wall. And that lured Buster to stealthily start inching toward me And then he suddenly sprang around the corner and pounced, and we began to wrestle. And I wore a thick pair of gloves all the time, and he fiercely attacked those, and Nancy was chiding me, saying, "You're too big, you're gonna hurt him." Of course, nobody ever got hurt, except occasionally me when his teeth slightly missed those gloves. But we would roughhouse until we were both exhausted, and then he would flop down and pull me to his tummy with his intent and demanding eyes. And I'd place my nose in his chest, and he'd paw the back of my head. He also had some funny habits. My favorite was his open door policy, which he strictly enforced, and that became a source of considerable embarrassment when I forgot to warn some house guests that if they used the bathroom, they had to make sure that that door was shut absolutely tight, or else. We had 10 wonderful years with Buster, even though that initial phone call from Nancy had certainly not come at the right time, but it had led to the gift that I'd always been promised. And we hoped that our time with Buster would last forever. But one Sunday afternoon when I was playing with him in the basement, suddenly, without any warning, he suffered a massive stroke, and most of his body was paralyzed, and he was in severe pain. The emergency vet said that it was time. And as he was giving Buster his final shots, I sobbed and buried my face in his chest and felt his paws on the back of my head one last time. About 3 years later, Nancy was on another bike ride in the country, and when she stopped by a wooded area for a snack, she heard a faint meow, and then a tiny kitten climbed into her lap. She called me, but I was at work and unable to help this time, so she decided to ride the 12 miles home as fast as she could and drive back with the cat carrier. When she returned to that spot, the cute little kitten was still there waiting for her. Nancy called her Tashi, but Tashi's story will have to wait for another day.